wasn't needed anymore. We won.
Based on a lie. Another is evil rising from where we tried to bury it.
The BenBen
Has to come back.
What if he doesn't exist anymore?
He must.
Welcome to the Ben. Sorry about that. Welcome to the BenBen Show. I'm your host, BenBen. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Technical difficulties today. What are you going to do? Show has to go on, though. I thought we could relax into things, even before sponsors, going into a little ASMR. So sit back, relax. I'm just going to set the mood, just to get the show going, a nice, smooth intro. Some light tapping. I'm proud of you. You weren't racist today. Good for you. Should I discuss George Floyd more on this show? I did the post-conviction analysis video yesterday. I don't know. I think we should lay it to rest for the time being. I'll reference it a few times on the show, but I don't want to overdo it just because you have the Blakely motions. The prosecution is going to attempt to say that there are extenuating circumstances in this regard and that the pre-sentencing guidelines based on the criminal history of the officer, Officer Shaven, which doesn't really have one, should be disregarded, and there should be enhanced, like a raise in that pre-sentencing report based on the extenuating circumstances, perhaps being an officer on duty with an oath to serve the public, so protect and serve, and the fact that he also is guilty of all three charges. That's the big thing. The second, third, and manslaughter, involuntary. It's just completely. Those charges were designed to cover the prosecution, the state's bases, so that even if second and third, intent to harm without the intent to kill, you still had this idea of neglect, this perception of doing bodily harm, being neglectful, the recovery position, for example, which I think is the biggest part of the case. But I digress. I think there's room for appeal with Biden's comments, the public outcry, all the pressure on the jury, Maxine Waters' comment. I mean, there's so much pressure. There should have been a change of venue. I really believe there should have been a change of venue. I don't know why they didn't just make it easy on everyone. It's almost like they'd be disrespecting the people of Minneapolis or disrespecting George Floyd's family by moving the case. But to lay it to rest, to stop this from coming back, to bite Minnesota in the butt on the appeal process, it just might have made sense to have a more neutral venue. That's the only thing I really discuss about it. The ongoing crisis in this country through the perception of the media is going to keep happening. You have the Ma'Khia Bryant situation. I watched that video, a 16-year-old girl. I can't stand these videos. They're so hard to watch. They're awful, absolutely awful. I saw George Floyd, you saw it. I saw him go to die right before our eyes, and then I saw the 16-year-old girl get shot to death by a police officer coming onto the scene.
This is the body camera video released from Columbus Police. Interim Police Chief Mike Woods says Officer Nicholas Reardon was the one who discharged his firearm. Here he is heading towards Legion Lane after 2 911 calls to police.
Arriving at 3171 Legion Lane on the left.
The footage shows 7 people in a driveway, and when the officer says what's going on, that's when another woman is shoved to the ground. Police later identify Ma'Khia Bryant. She appears to be the one shoving down the other woman. We are going to slow this part down. Officer Reardon draws his gun 10 seconds after getting out of the cruiser. A woman on the ground gets kicked by a man on the sidewalk. Columbus police say other potential crimes within this video are being investigated separately. Then you see Ma'Khia Bryant lunging towards a woman in pink with what appears to be a knife. Then the first shot is fired. We're going to pause this video here for 10 seconds as Ma'Khia falls to the ground and the officer's gun is still pointed at her. We're not going to show her death out of respect of her life and for her family.
Instantly, it's so fast. Just, there's a horrible violent altercation going on between two women involving a knife. But one of them, at least, is a child, 16 years old. Someone called the police, asked them to intervene, but at the same time, they're critical of what happened. How are you supposed to make a phone call as a parent, as a neighbor, as a responsible citizen, say, hey, I'm really concerned. I'm calling you, the police, to come here to help us. A woman is trying to stab another person. What are you supposed to, like, that's serious, like, in every regard. So there's a heightened sense of alert. The police they're like life and death situation. Someone believed that the police needed to intervene somehow. And not to be sexist, as a man, I feel like the officer overstepped by going for his gun. When a knife's involved between two women, I think it's completely unnecessary. He protected the potential victim of stabbing, firing 4, 5, 6 times at a 16-year-old girl, leading LeBron James to tweet with a picture of the officer, "You're next, #accountability." Do you know how many situations like this occur all the time where the officer is stabbed, where it's a white assailant? It happens equally. Like, it happens more. I'm not talking about population proportions, but no one talks about it. They're framing this in race. In this particular circumstance, it's just another one of the narratives. Look at the white police officer. Is it race? Is it really that he doesn't know how to handle African American people socially? That's the reason that a 16-year-old girl is dead. I hate the framing of it, because this is just a young girl getting killed. Shouldn't be killed. A taser should be used. You should shoot at the legs or something. It's completely unnecessary. It's completely unnecessary to fire at someone's chest like that when they're wielding a knife not in your direction. The framing it in race is it's so preposterous. So preposterous. And the vile thing is that case, LeBron, I understand the outcry. I don't blame anyone, actually, anymore. The way the media portrays these things is very, very easy to get on the dole, on this sort of like dope of, yeah, look at all this police brutality towards African Americans, this disproportionate amount. Look at the proportions relative to the total community. I completely understand the way it's framed over and over again. But to say that it's just a racial issue and not a training issue, it's definitely a training issue. It's definitely a training issue. The implications, this officer has some racial and like prejudice, or he wouldn't have acted the same way if there were two white people. That presumption or that framing is just totally inappropriate. And I think LeBron James jumping to that conclusion, I don't blame him, but given his power on social media, given his position in society I think he's a billionaire, I think he should think twice before making that judgment and going to social media and basically risking the life of an officer without knowing the whole facts of a case, as if like he's a murderer. Like he's, like, again, the intent, like with Officer Shaven. Second officer called on the scene, backup. And somehow in between getting the call and assessing the situation, he decided to hurt someone else. Someone called the paramedics because there was a problem. And then Officer Shaven kept his knee on George Floyd's neck. Except when you look at the body cam footage for Officer King, the knee is on the back, the shoulder blade of George Floyd. It's like, did he move it so the paramedics didn't look like didn't look like an asshole to them, or was it always there? Look at the timestamps, perception from the camera, boom, boom. It looks like there's an optical illusion from Frazier, the paramedic civilian that was filming the whole thing that everyone sees on every network on legacy media, compared to what actually was happening. The knee was actually in the upper back, the shin over the neck, but not putting pressure on it. But it's irrelevant. He should have been offered the recovery position, and there's no evidence to suggest that knee wasn't on the neck at some point, and he moved it. He repositioned himself. But I digress. I really think there is an amazing ability for people to empower themselves in a way that may be self-defeating in terms of like society at large, by creating this police brutality towards African American like specific avenue. You completely negate what the actual problem is. You completely ignore. It's like it's about the way officers treat African Americans, and it's all about race, and these officers are racist. That is such a disservice to the whole idea of what's actually happening, which is a lack of training. None of these officers should have to kill these people if they're trained better. None of these deaths have to happen if they recognize that they're liable for negligence or for overreaction. If someone is not wielding a knife in your direction, you don't have to kill them to protect someone else. You can shoot them in the knee, and unquestionably that should solve the problem. I understand the officer felt that he was trying to protect someone else, but you have to make these quick snap decisions. All those side officer coming up on the side of a traffic stop where they're worried that someone's going to pull a gun on them, and then they shoot the guy because he's not complying or something like that. There's instances all the time that aren't talked about where the guy does pull a gun and fires. He doesn't care about the police because he knows he's going away for long. It doesn't make a difference to him. The car stolen, he still thinks he has a way of like separating his identity from the incident. And he can get away. It's not a justification. It's just so awful. It really. If Republicans are racist and they view that that Officer Shaven is completely innocent in every way, right? And then this is bias, race, Black Lives Matter manipulation, the legacy media trying to change this country and to push identity politics, really excessive. And then there's the other side of it, which is that racism is real and everywhere, and it's systemic, and we have to change. And the police and all these legacy institutions are racist, and there needs to be some like racial, like social training. And then there's say like me, who's like right there in the middle, seeing both sides, looks at the data points, looks at the skews in data based on socioeconomics, not just color, this color of the skin, which is the big selling point, because it's such a money maker. Racism is a $1 billion business, $1 trillion business. So there's no reason to give it up because you've invested so much in it for the sake of politics, just for votes. And the police brutality thing, it enhances that. It's an optionality for further cash flows and reaping rewards and maintaining market share of the African American community by progressives on the left. It's awful. You look at it that way, that the people are manipulating these things for the sake of their own careers, for getting reelected. That's awful. So that's kind of that's that. Let's segue. Let's try to move a little bit to something more positive. It's 2:00 in the morning. It's it is what it is. So it might be later than that. No, it's 2. So it's you can go down that negative road. But like it's just the other thing too. And this is going to like the Duke lacrosse players who were charged with rape by the prostitute. Ended up not being accurate with their made up. Some of those kids, just from association with that incident, didn't get jobs, the same jobs they did. They're tainted their entire career. And that's a minor situation in the sense of, okay, justice played out, innocent, the person, the alleged dancer, prostitute in that regard was lying. Okay, sure. In this circumstance, there's ambiguity. You're accused of killing a child, a 16-year-old girl, a man in police custody that's already been submitted. No reason to have any pressure on his back whatsoever. If he's acquitted, Officer Shaven, you're a social outcast. You're George Zimmerman. You don't have, people aren't going to hire you. You're forced retirement, pension, civil suit. notwithstanding, you don't know. I mean, it's you're done. And the way the jury came back, within 3 hours of jury deliberation, that's the way people are going to view you instantly, immediately, face value, book of by cover. You're that racist, evil guy that killed that person. And it's all in a split second. Racism somehow associated with your job profession. You happen to be a police officer. You happen to be there. The reason you did what you did is because of race. Germany's government, if you didn't know this, I think this is really progressive. This is a good thing. Pays for prostitutes for the elderly and disabled. That is amazing. I love that. Can you imagine if we had that here? We've had this push for like child trafficking, Pornhub's expulsion of all their videos that aren't unverified, Backpage being shut down. This massive push for verification, which I think is kind of could be leading to some of the social media. I don't know that it's wise for the discourse of the angst in terms of like, say, if Twitter verified people, because like then all the messed up things people say, they wouldn't say it. They'd like censor themselves, and then Twitter would just be fake. It'd be like, I don't know, cocktail party talk. Like everything you say at your psychiatrist when you first meet them, like, yeah, no, it's fine. Carol is, she's great. She's one of my best friends. And yeah, I go out on the weekends. I work about 50, 60 hours a week. But yeah, I think I have a good balance. And then you find out in the fourth or fifth section that Carol's actually a pair of your socks. And that your boyfriend Jeff is really just a used half drunk Gatorade of like bread or something that you keep by your bed. You've painted it kind of like was it Castaway Wilson. It's your little Wilson, and you kind of flush it, and you just, I don't know, it looks like the Kool-Aid guy from when you were a kid, and you have like this positive dopamine response, and you just kind of like pretend like it goes like Dane Cook, oh yeah, and you're like, oh yeah, and maybe you touch yourself to it. I don't know, something like that. But yeah, it's and then it digresses into something more real, something more darker. I don't know. Tall people don't have a lot to look forward to when they get older. Like the curvature of the spine with gravity, I'm gonna look like so weird. My head's gonna be like. I remember I was at a country club. This old guy, literally the hunch in his back was like this. His head was here. Okay, this is like the mid upper back, and he's like serving. He's just like. I love tennis. I know there's a lot of bad stuff, but 18 right to vote, 21 to drink. Well, I started when I was 9, met at 12. 37 president, and then you're shitting your depends at 65 years old. Social Security benefits kick in, and you also get blowjobs paid for by the government. Yes. That's. I always thought that I'd die sick, like of like a cocaine overdose, because I don't want to be one of those people who's like, wrinkles all over my face when I'm running on the beach. I can do like, I don't know, super marathons or something like that. I want to die sick. I want to have sequined Ed Hardy on with a little gut with a bunch of 19-year-old, 20-year-old girls around me at like some sushi bar in LA. I just started some weird clothing line, like some new form of like underwear for men that like increases your sperm count and raises your testosterone, something like that. I don't know. And like I'm just living the life. I'm just like hanging out with all the people. Oh, the little X. Oh, a little cocaine. Thank you. Yes. Not like, oh, where's my juice? Oh, my juicer. Oh man. What am I going to do? I'm going to hike 6 miles today. I'm going to work on my memoir. No. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the blowjobs. If it ever comes here, excited about the blowjobs. Probably won't, though. I really think that like the sex industry is going to be like controlled by our government for the sake of some sort of collusion with the new like augmented reality world. See, what I think is happening in a little weird way. This is a little segue. I'm going to do this because it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Why not? Did I say 3? Is it 2? 3? I don't know. It's like the NFTs that people are buying, like you can buy land, you can buy like fake domains to websites that are crypto domains, you can buy like items that are in the virtual landscape of games. The wealth gap that's happening right now, the devaluation of the dollar, the fact that people are being paid for welfare for the stimulus checks in dollars. athletes are asking for Bitcoin. People are buying into it for the longest time. Just like marijuana, all the hedge fund guys, all the major bankers were saying, hey, this stuff, don't do it. Marijuana is terrible for you. They're investing in all these Tilray, all these startups. It's just like, that's what they do. They push it down, no good. And now you see, like, how could you honestly tell me that Dogecoin, it hit 45 cents? Is that the highest it was? Down to like 30 now, 28. Maybe it falls forever. But it has infinite amount of coins, no burn situation. It was headed towards $1. You got people have become super rich, huge wealth gap. And there's going to be the situation where all the people that didn't invest in GameStop, that didn't get rich in this like new reset period, which is almost like the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's like this quick cash grab. The amount of wealth that was built, 26 billion by Bill Ackman in just like 3 or 4 months. Unbelievable. Who knows what he made on the ride up? Probably betting the ride down in derivatives now. Talking about inflationary periods. Oh my goodness. We've been riding this high for a while. We were supposed to have a major recession. We had a synthetic one. What if the the real one comes in now that wasn't based off of closing the businesses for the sake of COVID? What if that didn't coincide with what was supposed to be a reset in our markets? We've leveraged ourselves more than ever before, more credit than ever before, right? We've had to take out loans, not the PPP only, but like just, we have forbearance programs. We have all those loans that were set to, hey, we're borrowing a lot, interest rates are incredibly low, and then we hit COVID, right? It's like, well, what really changed? How is this working out? Equity risk premium in the market's down to like 4% for the year. It's interesting. I think that there's like going to be this fake world where you, the everyday Joe, we can just go into a virtual world and be rich and happy. And like all the rich people, like that's the thing. They don't have to. Their happiness is like, they can pay for like genetic manipulation to look younger, do all these things. We have to go into this like simulated version of reality. And so that's what I think might happen, where people become dependent more on virtual reality, gaming, but like Sims, but like longer term. Like there is the balance between outside of the gaming world and the real world is going to be like balanced more like 50-50 or even worse. Like classes online, oh my gosh. Then it starts like, okay, you can go on dates online, but you can actually be on the date and never leave your house, right? Oh, the great reset. Oh my god. I see like the NFT experiences, obviously it's pushing up the liquidity of Ethereum by lowering the gas fees, increasing frequencies of transactions so that it becomes more ubiquitous. And then boom, once the gas fees go down, the coin's used more. It's finite currency. DeFi, oh, look out. I think 20,000 short term, next 3 to 5 years minimum. Maybe 3 years. Maybe that's too. It's absurd. What am I supposed to say? How do you value these? Well, there's a couple ways, but yeah, I think there's just going to be this offering to the public, the everyday person, of just like, your life sucks. Don't be upset at the rich people. Don't rise up. Just dope yourself up into this fake world. You have your supermodel girlfriend, fake. It's all set up for you, and all the like Amazons of the world will run it, like these fake virtual lives. And somehow by being in there, you can like contribute something in terms of like some virtual GDP, or like there's some like, by being in that world, you're running somehow, you're contributing to like the breakdown or the mining of code that contributes. So it's almost like a job. Like you can have subsidies from the government provided you're inside virtual reality enough to like create a product just by being inside of it. Does that make any sense? Like it's almost a self-propelling machine of like creating currency and revenue, like a taxation machine. Like you can pay your taxes by being in the system. Sorry, weird thought. I'm not high. It's just something I'm thinking about. I'm tired a little bit, a little late, so I do apologize. I'm a little discursive, but these are the questions. Will there be another stimulus check? I definitely think so. The way the markets are right now. Will I return your mother's phone calls? I don't know. Kind of like Wham bam, thank you, ma'am. Been there, done that. She's all right. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. She did put out on the first date. She's nice. But yeah, it's really interesting what Jerome Powell and the Fed are going to do given the low interest rate environment, the low inflationary environment. Let inflation run. This could be going on, you're talking about years of deflationary periods where you have to offset it by an inflation rate over 2% for a longer period of time. When JP Morgan saying, hey, this could be going on to 2023, 2024, I don't buy it. I think that there's going to be a massive deflationary period. There's a huge debt crisis that people are they're not talking about. I think the market makers are going to bet on a huge dip in the next 2 to 3 years in this period. And I think you see a lot of this. The market's incredibly overvalued. Sometimes people, the way inflation works, it's not instant. It's like, oh, well, inflation, prices are going to keep going. Well, the equity markets, it's a process. Inflation is setting in. The prices have moved. How the rest of the world, the primary markets, the way inflation works will then drive down those equity markets, because the actual return, the actual value, the costs and everything's it's false. It's harder. It's not actual real revenue increases. It's a fake farce. You have to maintain revenue growth to offset the inflation or increase it to offset the inflation. Very, very difficult thing to do. But yeah. Keep on going here. Keep on going. Chelsea Super League. You're going to talk about Super League. Just what that is. 6 teams from the Premier League, 3 teams from Spain, and 2 teams from Italy formed or wanted to form a Super League. FC Barcelona, AC Milan. A bunch of the others agreed to it. And then all of a sudden, I guess they just decide, you know what, this is messed up. They started to pull out. The best teams in Europe competing each other every year in a Super League. Seems like a great idea. Of course, it already exists. It's called the Champions League. Champions League, it's where you win your respective division of all the teams in your area, your league, and then you join the Champions League, where all the best teams that earned it, get to compete against each other. We see this in college football right now, where the SEC is dominated. It's almost like the NFL. Everything else is secondary. You're Big Ten, you're right below. We don't expect you to beat, Alabama, right? You're right below. And it's kind of funny too in that regard. Ohio State is kind of they kill everyone, then they play Alabama, they get crushed, right? That type of thing. It's it's interesting. All those top quarterbacks, amazing. They've gone to the NFL. Cardell Jones, Dwayne Haskins. I actually think Dwayne Haskins is a victim of COVID. He really played well the last 3 or 4 games last year, and then he didn't prep at all. I think he was thrown off, a little immature, took a break. It's okay. I don't blame him. But yeah, there's this legacy of soccer, 100 years old. These young, Rotterdam, Fordham, Scumfrog, just smaller towns where it's not a franchise like the Cowboys. They're small clubs. That's how they started. They're not owned by billionaires necessarily. And someone took the NFL model, took the major Chelsea, Arsenal, that type of thing, how much the Russian billionaire that owns Chelsea, right? Said, what if we just took the NBA, the American model, and created a super league, and this is the primary, everything else is irrelevant. We basically condense the money flow to these 10, 12, 16 teams, whatever it was, and everyone was yeah. And then all of a sudden, they started to pull out of it. Everyone started to pull out of it. We're talking Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Arsenal, Tottenham Hotspur, and Chelsea are beginning the process of pulling out of the European Super League. And it's why did they decide to do that? I suppose there's this reality that in terms of revenue sharing, there was going to be a huge downturn in some of these teams. What is the collective bargaining agreement offering? What is the revenue share bargaining for the teams themselves? What if net I have a better chance in my local market, and then going in the Champions League I make more money overall? What if what does Qatar basically run Juventus, the AC Milan? So there's something like what if all these super rich people get all the best players and it's all consolidated to where it's just like 3 teams in the Super League. Everyone else becomes irrelevant. Now, not only do you lose like you're like really stuck when it comes to revenue, and I think that's what they decided. They're like, this is like some super rich guys trying to take advantage of us. It's not a good thing. It's not really a European Super League. It's really like a billionaire Super League, and we're getting taken advantage of. We just don't realize it yet. I mean, the ACC in terms of revenue share overall has been crushed by the fact that all the talent's going to the SEC, and that's just the way it's almost like I don't know. It doesn't make any sense in terms of like equality in football. Like why are all these great players going to the SEC schools? It's almost like there was a great alignment where all LSU, Alabama, all these schools started winning all at the same time, and then it's like Florida State, Florida, all of those guys like sort of became like secondary, and it hasn't changed. Maybe it'll switch at some point. All the Florida schools used to be the big thing. It's not anymore. They've been lagging behind for a while, and if you had a situation where all the media outlets kind of like treat and market your team, your league more than others, it's almost like, I don't know, playing football in New York versus playing football in like, I don't know, South Dakota. It's like, of course you're going to make more options in terms of marketing, advertising, and someone decided, you know what? Yeah, this is what's going to happen. All the power is going to be consolidated inside the Super League. If the smaller teams try to go up against the richer owners in the Super League, it's really just going to come down to like who wants to spend the most money. And then there's going to be like no borrowing contracts in terms of like releasing players to different leagues. That'll stop. I never really liked that. You imagine if you're like a football team in the NFL and then your best quarterback is loaned to another rival, and you're like, it's okay for $60 million. I'm like, we don't like that. We feel like the players are part of our team until they're traded, and we hate them. But like, you know what I mean? Or like, it's not their fault, but we do. Or they sign with another team, we hate them. It's weird. Jordan Love for the Green Bay Packers is despised, and he was drafted by the Green Bay Packers. And you're like, you're replacing our superstar quarterback. How dare you? It's not his choice. But yeah, I don't know. A lot of people don't like that. Soccer fan, sort of. I don't know. 1-0. There's a reason why the NHL got rid of the red lines. They wanted to score more goals. Why smaller goalie pads, wider nets, better marketing. Selling of that. I don't know. Soccer, even in the United States, I think it's still. It'll never be. I don't know. Maybe we're too like. I don't know. You really think there's like a technical aspect to like American sports that exists in like basketball and football. It's very, very technical, very, very, very technical. But there's something about it that just in terms of scoring, I don't know. It's something about the short-term gratification is just there, and like soccer for some reason has not been a thing. Like, you say people like who like tennis, who like hockey. Higher intelligence net, but if you look at like the actual structure of like an NFL game, what it takes to actually create the plays, it's very technical. Look at like bet spreads, all the derivatives of the sport, all the things outside of the optionalities of like Kelly Criterion and like how Vegas sets things. That's a very interesting aspect of it. It's very complicated and technical. So yeah, I don't really know why. It's just the number. If you said like a goal was worth 14 points, it just still comes down to the fact that there's just one goal and it's 1-0 and it's 90 minutes, and it's like really exhausting. Like you're running around in the field. There's no, in terms of relativity, like who's the best. Messi for a long time was just like crushing people. It was really fun to watch. Cristiano Ronaldo too, but it's so, I don't know. It's really time consuming. I feel like that's why baseball's fallen so much. People don't have the attention span for it. Soccer, I don't know. It's amazing that like one person, one athlete can change an entire franchise, a family, change the whole direction of like a country just by the way they play a sport. Who pushes that? Who nurtures that? Who sees that? Impoverished nation, absentee father. Like, where does it come from? Cristiano Ronaldo talks about that, like working, his mom worked all the time. Like, who's really, man, it's like his love for the game. I think it's amazing. Rafael Nadal, vamos, multi-millionaire, almost billionaire, and you're still pushing yourself, going for it. Like, almost 40 years old, like Roger Federer, incredible. It's like, what are you doing it for? It's really, really interesting. My dad didn't push me in sports. Like, when I was in Little League Baseball, he was more concerned about his managerial abilities than like whether I was having a good time. Once I was at Disney World, I remember my mom had to call security to find me because my dad got really interested in the ride that he was on. I think it was Splash Mountain. He kept going on it over and over again by himself. Me and my brother like drifted off. Maybe we were molested or something. I blocked that out by someone else. I don't know. Things that happen when you're young. But there's a lot of reasons people play sports. I was in middle school, did not push myself in sport. I like the rope in gym class. I'd always let someone win. Halfway up the rope, I'd just stop. Partially because I was afraid of heights. I'm already 6'6", no reason to go any higher. The other part was the friction from the rope gave me an erection. I didn't know that. It ended up coming in my pants multiple times. The guy would just beat me and be like, good for you, go ahead. And PE teacher was like, she was a 65-year-old lesbian woman, very, very nice. Okay, BenBen, it's time to get down. I'm like, no, I'm good up here. I'm gonna hang here for a little while longer. Don't know about the spotters below. I was wearing gym shorts. Gave a kid it's kind of coming on his face. Like there's like a parent-teacher conference emergency. It's like, Mrs. Jones, we apologize. There's something we need to bring to your attention. A 6-year-old boy gave your son a pearl necklace inadvertently. What? Well, see what happened was he didn't realize that he's coming of age. He was humping the rope and he was didn't realize wasn't conscious of it. We all saw it. It was frightening. He was wearing extra shorty shorts and he ended up ejaculating, and gravity, it fell, hit your son. We told him it was condensation. I don't know. We're trying to discourage BenBen from playing any future sports in that regard, team sports, maybe get him into something similar. He'll also enjoy maybe horseback riding. I don't know. He's really into that play equus, so I don't know. It's true. That really did happen. Should I tell you that? Lawsuits. No one watches this from my middle school. Maybe they do. Golden Globes, we're going to talk about that. Controversy already under fire for failing over membership diversity. I think it's really interesting how everything has to be a balance of the way population demographics are net. Like, there's not enough, Asian trans doctors. They're just not there, There's not enough. We have to make sure it balances the equation. What about white people in the NBA? Come on. Does anyone want to watch that? Come on, who cares? White people don't count. But everything else, direct proportion to their national population size, total sample size, has to be equivalent to that. But I digress. The Golden Globes has been forced to apologize after its former team president emailed a copy of an article that called Black Lives Matter a racist hate group. According to the LA Times, Phil Burke, who served the eight terms as the HPFA president ending in 2011, shared an article from a right-wing website, Front Page Magazine. Weird that he did this. It's almost like, again, you never know whether this is true or not. It's like, hey, we'll give you $100 million pension or something if you just take one for us. Like, okay, sure. Yeah, we want to push some more political agenda through manipulation and propaganda. No problem. You trash me, I'm cool with $100 million in a yacht. The angst, messing up, it's totally possible. I was saying about the Golden Globes with Bill Burr going under fire for mispronouncing the best Mexican new artist album of the year, or Hispanic artist, or Latina art. Her name, La Francan. He mispronounced it. Wasn't racist because he wasn't trying to mispronounce it. Probably read it off the card, and didn't know, but maybe he was in on it. I'll take the heat. Free publicity, sure. I'm under fire for saying something inappropriate. It's like, why would he do that? It's because it's a mild faux pas that makes him money. Puts his name out there. COVID's undermined the ability of earning power for a lot of celebrities. Why not create some controversy that doesn't really affect you net, doesn't hurt your fan base? They don't care. It's nothing intentional there. You're going to tell me you're going to pick the whitest person in the world to call out the name for like Latin New Artist of the Year, and then you're like, oh, I can't believe you didn't know how to pronounce the name. That's just so disrespectful. Come on, it seems so set up, right? So set up. Anyways, in its statement, the HFPA said the views expressed in the article circulated by Mr. Burke are those of the author of the article and do not in any way, shape, or form reflect views and values of the HFPA. The HFPA condemns all forms of racism, discrimination, and hate speech and finds such language and content unacceptable. The LA Times reported that a number of HFPA members responded angrily to Burke's email, with one writing, "The vile rhetoric contained in this creed is simply unacceptable," and another calling Burke a thundering disgrace. This goes to the semantics of what's really, so you can't dislike Black Lives Matter. An organization is infallible because of its namesake. It's very bizarre. Black Lives Matter. Oh, I don't like that thing that Black Lives Matter did. What? That's impossible. They can do nothing wrong. Inciting riots, encouraging violence. Oh, excuse me, in the name of civil rights? $2 billion in property damages over this. Excuse me? What do you just like hate black people? That's the way they do it. Like Louis Farrakhan did it with Nation of Islam. Oh, you're against the Nation of Islam. You're anti-Muslim. I'm like, what? It's a really beautiful ACLU. Oh, ACLU is bullshit. Are you against American civil liberties? Well, isn't the ACLU don't they tell me what I can and can't say based on whether it's inappropriate in some specific context? Isn't that a violation of my free speech, which is a civil liberty, the primary one in the United States? Oh man. I feel like if this didn't come from a right-wing outlet, if it came from The Guardian, the target would not only be Phil Burke, it would also be the author of the article, right? Someone this is a moderate magazine or more leftist, or I think Green, what's his name? Green, Edward Snowden, Green. Oh, famous, he left The Guardian because it became super, he's liberal. It became super manipulative, like creating stories that are very propaganda driven. He didn't care for. He's been critical of them for a while now. He was living in Brazil for a while. I can't remember his name. It's so frustrating. But if they came out with the article, they dig up something from the author. Oh, I can't believe they let him publish this. Huge faux pas, unless it was intentional. It's the only thing I can think of. But they'd find out he cheated on his wife 4 years ago, or there was a simple assault charge that was dropped, and it was the neighbors heard screaming oh, he beats his wife. Or he accepted Donald Sterling floor seats once. Oh, he's racist by association, that type of thing. That's what they do. It's really, really messed up. And all the media has to do is just universally agree, except for Fox News, no one cares. But CNBC, CNN, they all just jump on the same story. A reliable source says, reliable source, same source probably. It's made up because you have to be first. Why wait till you find someone associated with the story itself? There's no time for that. It's impossible. The reliable source, one day, someone's going to come out with verifiable proof that, other than Project Veritas, that something's no, they're making up these sources. They don't have time to verify different stories that go to one news outlet first. They don't have a scoop at all. Where are they getting the source? How do you verify a source that's different than the original source within 24 hours? That's a specific story in a very segmented cadre of people involved and players. It's crazy. It's so clearly fake. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And really, when you take these namesakes and the simplicity of the name, you can't possibly criticize Black Lives Matter. They're doing so much good. Because of the name. If it was the fist or equality, equality for all, right? That would be harder to push. but just by the fact that it's called Black Lives Matter, any criticism by anyone not part of the tribe, right? Not inside Black Lives Matter, not on CNN, or it's not universally agreed upon. It's someone really messed up in Black Lives Matter, like embezzled funds, right? And it's like so clearly obvious, and like, well, this is not part of what Black Lives Matter stands for. This is completely inappropriate. They should be ashamed of themselves, so on and so forth, right? Other than that, it's really hard to be critical, and I quite frankly, I understand why. It's such a power move. The organization is so powerful, and it's worth so much money. It generates so much money. It's not just about equality. It's about power. Adding letters to LGBTQ is like RSTYZ, UVWA. I don't know my alphabet, but like it's a power move. So many people that are within the gay community, that are friends of mine, that I say like, let's be real. So much oppression, so much messed up stuff for years. Yes, I don't agree with everything we're doing right now in some ways. Yes, I think there's hypocrisies all around. There's like these universal set of rules that are contradictory. Yes, but hey, the power. Why would I give up the power? It's not about what's true. It's like I've been given this amazing power by proxy for the group that I'm part of. Why would I arbitrarily give it up, knowing the horrible things and atrocities that happened in the past? It's like balancing the equation, right? It's like, how can you possibly be against this given all the bad that's happened? It's almost like like getting rid of Trump, right? Like we can push Trump out because he's that bad. It's worth it to violate some rules, to insinuate, like the Insurrection Act. Like clearly he was, incited the riot at the Capitol, and clearly he worked with Russia. You can't talk about 2020 election. We can talk all day about him working with Putin to become elected in 2016. Certainly, there's evidence there, even though they never found it. You had everyone and their neighbor trying to find it. Every government agency trying to get something on him. And I feel like there's no way he runs again. I know it's crazy, but I feel like it's impossible. He has to have some skeletons in the closet. The intelligence services that he's bashed at times know something or found something. And in the end, they're going to offer him some like peace. Listen, buddy, you're not running again. All right. And we're going to make sure you don't run again. You lost billions of dollars by being president. You're getting older. You love playing golf. You love supermodels and cheating on your wife. No way you're going to run again. And if you do, this will happen. And it's really, really bad. Just feel like that's some person in dark suits can come up to him and say that. But yeah, and this is like the thing of like, you start to like lose like objectivity because of the power. Like in a microcosm, you're so insulated by the fact that you think you're doing all good. You forget what is the collateral damage to that good. It's like, well, it's been so bad. You're like inflation, like Jerome Powell letting inflation go below 2% for a while to offset all the bad. Right? It's like, well, for how long? Like, when does it balance? Like when is the racism over? When is it equal? And so, like, Demi Lovato criticizing the Big Chill yogurt company, and like kind of like getting out of it in the end, like saying that her comments were misinterpreted. And it's like, oh, okay, that's fine. Like, it's just crazy. Demi Lovato called out the Big Chill multiple times on social media for carrying sugar-free products, claiming that it was triggering people who were recovering from eating disorders. What? Finding it extremely hard to order froyo from the Big Chill, she said, when you have to walk past tons of sugar-free cookies and other diet foods before you get to the counter. She wrote on her Instagram stories, "Do better, please. #dietculturevultures." What? It's like the last thing I would think is if someone's accusing Jamba Juice of being like, I don't know, like fat shaming people. It's crazy. It's like, what? It's the same idea. It's so specific. The Big Chill responded to the critique by sharing the singer's complaint on their own Instagram stories and explaining that their choices for stocking sugar-free things involved catering to people with diabetes and celiac disease, gluten-free. And then vegan options, of course. And Demi Lovato responded by saying, I'm not satisfied at all. Going on to post her DMs with their stories of their like rebuttal to her criticisms. In their opening message, the Big Chill wrote, "We cater to all of our customers' needs for the past 36 years. We are sorry you found this offensive. The whole experience was triggering and awful." They're really trying to to humble themselves completely to like gain public support, because it's like, this is really dangerous to their bottom line. Like, the celebrity could ruin their business. 36 years is like, you're a fat shaming froyo company. How dare you? Froyo should be full of calories, and there should be like tons of. When I go to a candy shop, I want to have an insulin spike like crazy. And how dare you? It's so disgusting. It's such a weird, specific like. So the whole experience was truly and awful. They said you can carry things for other people while also caring for another percentage of your customers who struggle daily, just even to step foot in your store. Oh wait, sorry. No, this is the Big Chill wrote, we cater all our customers past 36 years. She replied, the whole experience was triggering and awful. You carry things for other people while also caring for another percentage of your customers who struggle daily just to even step foot in your store. What? You can find a way to provide an inviting environment for all people with different needs, including eating disorders, one of the deadliest diseases, a second to opioid overdoses. Don't make excuses, just do better. And then she said, don't keep doing this. You don't want to mess with me. You're in the wrong and the customer's always right. You don't want to mess. It's like a threat. What does she want them to do? Throw out all the vegan options, all the sugar, or add sugar stuff to it, more sugar? How much, Demi? How much would you like to see in the front? Can they have sugar-free options too? Yes, but not less than they have now. There's a proportion that's acceptable. It's so specific. Like, people with eating disorders that are former heroin addicts and sing professionally, how you're just completely alienating those people as your customer base, and you guys should be just like shut down. Never mind any consideration for a business that likely was shut down this entire time during the pandemic. Especially in LA, you're like, of course they're abiding by that. They've lost tons of money. It's just things are just starting to open up again, and you're destroying them. What? How solipsistic and arrogant can you be? It's like, what about people that like sugar? What about them? Like, you don't see Arnold Schwarzenegger going into a vegan restaurant saying, like, what the hell's the matter with you? Where's the cow? Want the cow now? It's like so weird. Like, LeBron James goes into a ski shop that like caters to like, I don't know, ski boots for people with cleft feet. It's like, wear your sneakers. Do better. # you're next. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's so arrogant and so narrow-minded, like a super rich people. Hey, look at all the power I have. I can destroy this yogurt shop. And by doing it, I'm doing a service. I'm not actually hurting them. They'll change, they'll be fine. But I get to control them and threaten their livelihood, threaten their revenue stream. Awful. Like Peter Dinklage walking into like a big and tall shop saying, "What the fuck?" Like, what are you talking about? Oh my God, it's awful. It's awful. I don't know. It's so messed. It's like, are you trying to get like publicity for yourself right now and it backfired? She tried to say that her comments were misinterpreted. I'm like, you're trying to destroy this business. Or by them appeasing your want and adding more sugar options, you somehow prove that they were wrong the entire time. That power is really. Look, we're not meant to be connected like this and be able to like do these people like all over the world, like any moment, anytime. I mean, you say it's completely stored forever, and it's I don't know, like it's awful. I don't know, man. I'm never gonna date people. The Tinder thing, like that's no, but like also, like the business of the social media is so powerful. It like forces you into it, and every time you like go on a retreat, get away for a weekend or something, turn off your phone, you feel like you're like Al Pacino and like Godfather 3. It's like every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in. You have no choice. It's too, your customer base is universal now. The globalization, the great globalization, you have to appease this machine that's universal connectedness, and it's not in like a Zen Buddhist way. It's in like a high cortisol stress, constantly trying to grind. Like there's like a meme about like artists and like creative people like wanting to like just throw away their phone and their computer. It's like it's just so. Pierce thing can be maintain creativity while appeasing like the special social constructs today that we have, without offending someone. And kind of like win overall and not be worried about what they have to say, not censor themselves. Oh, it's like the monoculture that it forces you into. It's like your ability to continue to make what you do, to do what you do, and provide for yourself. Like if you like didn't make money and all of a sudden you can do this and make money now, and you don't have to worry about a job 9 to 5, and then like all of a sudden so you can't say that anymore or else. And it's like, I didn't care what you had to say when I didn't have any money, or you didn't pay me for my opinion or for my work. Now I have to change it for you just to maintain what I have and pay the rent. And I'm like, do I want to go back to living in my car and writing? It's a very interesting power grab. It's like it's like all the celebrities that were like going through the Me Too movement. I feel like there was like a check, like, you are here not because of your talent, because the gatekeepers allowed you to be here. It doesn't matter if you're Brando. We control you, and you better do as we say. It's scary as hell. So, I don't know why I leave these stories till the end. It's almost like it's the most complicated version. It's like auditing a differential equations class at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is essentially what I'm doing right now with telling you this story. Like the professor of Good Will Hunting like sees my chalkboard and it's like, oh my God, he's retarded. How did he get into this class? Oh, what is he talking? Oh, it's awful. Oh, carry the one. Oh my God, get him out of here. So here we go. Sleep minting. An artist operating under the pseudonym Monsieur Person, Mr. Nobody, created the crypto counterfeiting exercise for NFTs and cryptos. Sleep minting. To mint, as you know, an NFT, as I've talked about a million times, means to register a particular user as a creator initial owner, theoretically. This becomes the first link in a verified unbreakable blockchain network. Ethereum blockchain, NFT, art, so on and so forth. Potential buyers can trust NFTs or non-fungible tokens without having to trust the owners or the tokens or the sellers themselves, because it's registered on the blockchain. The transaction completes itself in a loop. It's, whoever it came from, it's irrelevant. The blockchain exists outside of the person that's selling. Potential buyers can trust the non-fungible tokens without having to trust the sellers. Person may have found a way to dynamite this argument by minting NFTs from the crypto wallets of other artists, then transfer ownerships back to himself without the ownership's consent or knowing participation. This is interesting. When I first read this, I thought about like depositing a check to a friend's account by going to the bank that they bank at. You don't have an account at all, and you submit, I want to deposit a check into this account for a service that you didn't, they didn't ask for the money. There was no service transaction. The other person's completely unaware of it, but you're depositing money into their account, almost like, here you go. But this is the difference. Person has found a way to transfer the ownership once he deposits the NFT back to himself without the owner's consent or knowing participation. Almost like by minting inside another person's wallet, there's a connection to him, and he can then take out more funds. Say you had like $1 million in there, he puts in 1,000, now he's access to the million. Each of these transactions appears as a legitimate transaction on the blockchain, as if the unwitting artist, you or I or anyone that accesses our account by depositing, opening or minting a coin in our wallet, or with our wallet ID, opening up the potential for mass fraud. This is really disconcerting in terms of like NFT market share and like growth in Ethereum. This has to be changed. It's based off the ERC 721 vulnerability. So there are other tokens and other versions of this that Rary and that may not have this vulnerability. But going forward, given the massive market that NFTs have, given Ethereum in general, and the concerns about DeFi, it raises this question. The whole idea about crypto that's been criticized forever has been like trust. How do you prevent fraud? The technology is so complicated in terms of, like, on its face value, people seem to understand the blockchain now, but the derivative markets, the DeFi, the coding that's like open source and someone can find a vulnerability in it. No one's found it. One guy like this, brilliant person, I imagine, finds a susceptibility, and it's like he's a white hat hacker, so he's just not gonna like steal. He's just letting you know, hey, look how smart I am. And I maybe see something better. Like the better version of this is that I get a contract or something. Like that's like showing people this. It's like I'm contributing, and it further enhances like the legitimacy of the tokens, of the movement of the growth of NFTs, of Ethereum, because I'm showing you that we are working to patch every hole possible, and my goal is not to take advantage of the public. Maybe that's what the I don't know, maybe it's like a net benefit, I think. Like there's something wrong with this. It's just like you weren't hired to find this vulnerability. You did it on your own, and you wanted to show people, and it just wasn't like set up. So it comes across as, geez, at first, it's really, really scary. But then you're thinking, this is the whole point of open source, of the whole DeFi and decentralization. It's like the community at large is protecting itself. It doesn't need banks. It doesn't need the government. Which is kind of ironical when you think of like the progress of finances. It's almost antithetical to the progress of our social constructs, our societal progress. At face value in this country seems to be more government, yet our finances seems to be decentralizing, which I think further emphasizes the point that there is no real legitimate belief that big government is good, or that more rules about what you can and can't say socially are healthy, that they are just constructs of power and control, Saul Alinsky movements to create, population control and manipulate peoples from, going against the powers that be, keeping the barrier to entry high, keeping the people in power already in power by those people investing in these movements. It makes perfect sense, because the financial market in itself is so practical and visceral and real. It's like, how we lower transaction costs overall? How do we take the power away from the banks into the people? Decentralization. That's what you do. Boom. Simple. Person sleep minted a supposed second edition of Beeple's record smashing every days the first 5,000 days. The digital work and accompanying tokens sold for a $69.3 million amount, ridiculous, via Christie's last month. In an ensuing email, Person claimed that he gifted the sleep-minted Beeple token 40914 to a user with the name Arsene Lupin, a homage to Gentleman Thief. Lovely. Lupin then turned around and offered the sleep-minted Beeple for sale on Rarible and OpenSea, two of the largest marketplaces. Rarible, great. Both of which eventually deactivated the listings. Why publicize this? Again, he's doing this all for the public. He wants to prove that the NFT marketplace is not secure, specifically for the ERC 721 smart contract, and that for the future growth of the market, we must fix this patch. Man. The most frustrating thing about these NFTs is like, there's this get rich, like you have to be first, the GameStop short squeeze, dry ships I was part of in 2016. There's this idea of like, oh, this is what it is. And it's funny. It's like, if you keep thinking that it's past you, Bitcoin's at 5,000. Oh, it's ridiculous. 5,000 to $1. It's insane. 10,000. It's insane. At 800, people are saying that 800 to $1. Can you imagine? I think don't want Bitcoin regret, right? But it's so abundantly clear that the future seems to have been broken down into I don't know how the U.S. government, which guarantees the dollar in this deflationary environment with the potential that for universal minimum income to come about because of compromising situations involving job security and like coding and like where are these massive market jobs, the factory jobs going to be when you have automation, AI coming, to like push people into a system where they're almost like they're mining by being in a virtual world and they're being rewarded through like hedonistic, basic primal things of fake models and like sexual, systems that like Amazon provides. It's subsidized by the government and control all these. It's like it's I know this. I don't know. I know it's very discursive. It's 4:00 in the morning now. So yeah, but I will talk about this more. All right, BenBen out. Subscribe below and click the like button, and I'll talk to you later. All right, bye.